Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is this trend of mashups about honoring, or is it about subverting? And is it even possible to subvert even if you wanted?
I do think it's possible to subvert if you wanted to. I think you can start to really change things. I think, you could take the bone, like what I feel like I did is I kept the bones and everything else changes. But you could take the bones and make a pterodactyl out of it instead of a human. Like I think you could do that. But then for me, one of the most fun games I've ever played was getting the original to meet up seamlessly with the mashup, with the monster part. So there are these amazing moments where Louisa May Alcott, she describes Laurie as a human boy 3 or 4 times. And when she's telling Laurie that she can't marry him, she said that she's not ready to give up her freedom for any mortal man. Like, this is in there. And like when Beth talks about how she's afraid of people, there were these. It seemed to me that like for me that was what I was doing, was that there was I could change whatever I wanted. Obviously, there was nobody standing over me and saying you can't change that. But for me, the amazing fun of it was taking this crazy new element and putting it into the original and just making it seamlessly seem like there was a story there all along. And that is part of the whole thing with, I did find the characters, the psychology of it did not change with their species, which I thought was delightful, but I could have changed them if I wanted to, because again, once you're changing 1%, why not change 99%? But I felt so strongly about leaving, their morality exactly the way it was, because it made a better story. It really made such a fantastic.
And there's a point where the book makes its own decisions, too, at least with my writing. And one thing with the werewolves, do you remember the story about Louisa May when she was about 5 years old, and she liked to wander away from home all the time?
Yeah.
So the one day, and I don't know if this part is true about the green shoes, that she got a new pair of green shoes that she showed to everybody in the house already and was so proud of them that she wandered away from home to show her green shoes off to people in the street. And, of course, who could blame her? But so she got lost, and she wound up sleeping in a doorway on a Newfoundland.
That's right.
On a giant dog that had come over and was kind of comforting her. And I just thought that, Newfoundlands are so huge anyway, that to a tiny child like that, this giant dog would have done something, would have stuck in her head, maybe as a kind monster, and have, then turned into werewolves later in her writing.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
But I thought that way, yeah. But, as far as that question goes, I think every writer has to answer that for their own book. There isn't a universal answer to that one.
Okay. Yes, down toward the front in the glasses. Yeah.
I'm wondering what people have felt about the book. So we did hear the cautionary tale that sometimes people write you 11-page letters.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering what the responses and what need you feel the books are fulfilling.
Well, we were talking about online that, as soon as the announcements were made that our books were published, that you had this. Of course, we always know the complainers go first. The complainers are the first to speak up. So you have this rash of, oh, God, not another one. They can't do that to Louisa May Alcott, So, but, and then, and then the people that like it are going to start speaking up. But, it's kind of mixed. And, I prefer to listen to the positive things.
What do they talk about when they speak to you about the books when they're positive?
Well, it's usually people who really love werewolves that have the most positive things to say, so this is like, this makes great sense. But there are some people that do love Alcott, and they're thrilled to see Alcott mashups now, that they've been waiting for this. And there are a lot of people that are very enthusiastic along those lines.
It is interesting because it goes both ways.
Yes.
There's the woman who threatened to cut off my fingers so that I couldn't write any more crap like this.
And these are people
this
that
was-
haven't read the book.
Thank you. I was going to go on record as saying,
Wait a
yeah.
minute.
The crap was the mashup, not the book.
Yes.
But then there are so many people who are like, I love Little Women. This is so much fun.
Exactly.
And I guess, I'm so appreciative of people who stop and think about it for a moment before reacting like, oh no, Little Women is sacred. Because again, all due respect to Louisa May Alcott, I don't think anything is sacred, except perhaps the Bible. I reserve opinion on that. But like, I do love that some people have been so open-minded and like, okay, yeah, let's try it, and you can, and I totally applaud you if you feel it, read a couple of pages and throw it across the room and discuss, that's fine, but to at least consider it before you dismiss it is really all I ask. And I have been because I've never published a book that came loaded before. No book I've ever published came with pre-opinions. And so I have to say, as an author, that's kind of nice. Even the negative, it's still, but you care. You care.
Yeah, just keep talking about it. I don't care what you say. Keep talking about
So
it.
that's
Yeah.
cool.
So if I could be devil's advocate or angel's advocate
Uh-oh.
for a moment, I've obviously spent a great deal of time with people who care very much about the Alcotts, for whom the Alcotts are sacred.
Right, yes.
And they're not necessarily bad people,
Right.
and they're not book burners. But they have a relationship with a book that has changed their lives, and in their thinking has made them better people.
Right.
And they see an honor and a
Right,
dignity
right.
in that.
Right.
Okay. And I think it's I'm a very strong believer in people being able to say and write whatever they choose. And the antidote is either not to read it or to, as you say, fight speech with speech. Write your own, okay? Or come back. As long as you're not actually threatening bodily harm, I think
Right.
that was really off the scales. And
Yeah.
I'm really sorry that happened to
And
you.
the wall.
But at the same time, I've met enough people who go to Orchard House, which is the Alcott home in Concord,
Right, right.
as a sacred shrine.
Right.
They make pilgrimages from across the world.
On their knees.
And, yeah. and the wonderful thing about literature, I think, is that we can all have our own Louisa May Alcott.
Right.
We can have Saint Louisa, or we can have Louisa, the repressed monster writer.
Right.
And the wonderful thing about a wonderful text is that it can take us in all kinds of different directions.
Right.
But I think the one thing that we all need to ask of each other
Right.
is respect.
Right, right.
And and of course we haven't had any disrespect tonight.
Right,
But I just
right.
think it's important to reaffirm.